Last week, we've talked about building a social presence. We said, what are some of the steps we can follow to build up a social presence? Now, today, we want to move one step closer to building a strategy online. Now, we've learned several things that do help us to build up a presence online, but now we need to know, well, how do we build up an overall strategy? How do we put everything together in one place that makes sense, that people would like to engage with our messages online, and then our senior executives in the company would want to give us support, right, to improve these presences. So, what we're going to talk about today, these are some of the things that we're going to look into. We're going to try to understand our customers. So, very little companies do understand who really their customers are. And especially when it comes to social media. It's absolutely essential that we know who are the people that we're talking to. You can't just go and engage with everyone that comes your way, but then you don't understand what do they do, what are their interests, and who are they, right? So that's why it's important that we spend some time in understanding and helping you in creating a better picture about your customers. The next thing, defining goals. Now, without a goal, it's like obviously taking your car and just driving, but obviously you don't know where you're getting to. So you need to know where you're heading to. It's really important. We will also be talking about SMART goals, really essential. You need to have SMART goals that are measurable, and we're going to get into more details. Then we'll look at identifying and selecting appropriate social networking channels that you could use for your own strategy that you want to build up. Now remember, the strategy is about putting together something that shows a clear plan on where you're aiming at and how long it's going to take you to get there. Of course, that then follows up with what you're getting in return for investing this time online, which is part of your first assignment as well. What are the benefits that social channels are bringing to you as a business? And that pretty much creates your strategic plan for social networking. Next, we will also look at identifying your resources, which are, when I say resources, I mean people. People make things happen. So, you need to identify how many people do you need, what sort of team do you need to be able to build something and to maintain those conversations online. Then we'll look into interacting, engaging, and the role of educating users. And then, of course, last but not least, we will look into ways of introducing offers and special deals to customers. But we'll try and follow up a process whereby we will not annoy people, but instead we will get them excited about the fact that they are engaging with us, they like what we do, and so we want to offer them something in return. How do you start? Well, the most important thing is, of course, having some sort of strategic plan. And the 6-step strategic plan that we've developed gives you a overall idea about what are the things that you need to consider whenever you're building a strategic plan. Now, we're going to get into detail, but let's just have a bigger picture of this. Resources. First thing first is people. Do you have people who can support the company? Do you have people who can be fully trained to help you out? Remember, social media, you can't succeed with social media investment unless you have more people in the company that want to support you. You can't succeed in social by having just one individual in the company who is giving everything he or she can to succeed. It's just impossible. You need everyone to embrace social activities. Everyone needs to be out there and supporting customers and being out there for the business. Next, social customers. Who are those customers of who are those people that are engaging online? Do they understand what we do? Are they active? Do they engage with us? What do they do? Can we define them? Can we create a bigger picture about telling who these people really are? Third process is identifying SMART goals. Now, why SMART goals are important? Simply because these goals are specific, they're measurable, of course action-oriented, they're realistic, and at the same time something that are planned around a specific time. So these SMART goals do really help us to do what? Not to shoot ourselves in the foot by trying and set objectives that we're never going to achieve. It's like saying, starting up with a business today and saying in 2 weeks' time, I want to have 5,000 followers. Well, it's very unrealistic. Unless you've got really big budgets to go with advertising on Twitter, on Facebook and YouTube. So you've got to have a reasonable goal. And that's why SMART goals help us to do that. Number 4. Social channels. Which are those social channels that you would be using to engage with people, right? And then, of course, how are you going to measure that engagement? Remember, like with everything in business, measuring is important, is essential. Because unless you stop and measure the numbers and those activities, you are not getting anywhere. You don't get the point of what are the things that you need to be considering for your business strategy. The 5th phase, of course, is engaging content. Now, we talked about viral videos, right? Now, viral videos, we've said, are really hard. There's a very small percentage of content that goes viral. However, you can always build content that travels far, excuse me, to the people. That's fun and useful. They can be customers, they can be potential customers, they can be people who want to engage with you. And phase 6 is, of course, internal culture. What is the culture within the company to embrace those social activities? How can you identify and build up a culture in the company where everybody's together to have a strong social presence, which means a stronger brand, a longer brand, a brand that would help customers but build relationship with them as well. So these are some of the things to keep in mind as an overall from the helicopter view kind of thing. Customers. Excuse me. When it comes to customers, of course, as I said to you earlier, there's so many companies that have no idea who they're serving to. And you'll be surprised if you go out and work with companies, you'll be surprised that they don't know who they're serving to. They're selling, they are in the business, but they don't know. And in social media, this is not acceptable. You've got to know who are the people that you're engaging with. You can't just stop and think and say, okay, I think there are people between 15 and 45 years old, or 15 and 50. And well, that's a huge range of people putting all in one basket. You can't do that. A 15 years old has got totally different needs from a 50 years old. Content, news, articles, subscriptions, products, and everything else. So it's absolutely essential we do that. Now, how that is possible to do with customers? Well, Lee and Bernoff in 2008 in their Groundswell book, they've done lots of research to identify what drives some of these conversations, what drives some of these ideas that help companies build stronger brands. And they came with the conclusion, thanks to their research, that there are 6 groups of users out there, and they have grouped them in a very particular way and quite interesting as well. When you look at the first group, they're very interesting parts of social engagement, and by the way, these can be some of the engagement that happen offline or online and social. Those are creators. Now, creators are super important for the business. Why? Because they publish a blog, they publish content, they upload videos, they upload multimedia files, and they are really active online. So, they are a really interesting bunch of people to know and to be connected with. Second group of people, you got critics. Now, these are some of the guys that will find anything they can just to send you a bad message on social media. Anything possible. But of course, the good thing about them is that they go and post reviews and ratings about your products and services. Now that is really good. Why? Because you are getting free feedback. That's why sometimes I say social media is like a gold mine. Something we could never have in the past. It was impossible. Now we get all of that for free. We don't even have to wait and ask for it. But they do it. Why? Because social is enabling this process to happen very naturally. And thanks to mobile and tablet technologies, it's becoming seamless. Publishing a tweet or replying to a tweet is similar to returning a text message, isn't it? Right? So, because things are becoming so easy, people are embracing those emerging technologies. Third group are collectors, right? Those people who are online to register to RSS feed, register to newsletters and things like that. So what do? They just collect. Joiners, fourth group. Now these are the guys who kind of have looked around for a bit and then joined in the conversations, and they are there, they're engaged, but of course they are not as active as we would want them to be. The fifth group are spectators. Now, they are not that much effective. They just kind of pass by, look at some of the content you've done, and then just move on with their lives. Inactives, obviously, none of the above. These people are, it's like an untapped market for the businesses, but these are some of the people that if we had relevant content, we might move them up the ladder. Now, lots of companies did a really good job to make sure that get spectators to join us and joiners to collectors and collectors to critics. Because companies and brands are driven by consumers today. We drive what happens. All of the content, all of your tweets, all of your messages, all of your reviews, all of your critical views that you've got, they drive the business world. And so, that's why understanding where your customers sit in this groundswell theory of the sixth group is really important. Of course, when it comes to the joiners, right? Joiners join in because they want to belong to something. They want to belong somewhere, right? They don't want to stand on their own. We're human beings. We can't be in our own. We've got to belong to something, to a bigger cause, right? We've got to belong to a group. And again, why this is important? This is important because social now is enabling that to be done very easily. Now, sometimes it happens that lots of successful entrepreneurs and also celebrities around the world, they kind of feel like they need to step back for a sec and then see, okay, well, what was their background? Where did they used to live? What did they used to do? Because they feel like they are left in that hyper world of celebrities, and they kind of lost in touch with where do they belong to. And I couldn't think of another example better than this one. I'm going to try and show you a video shortly, and then we can comment on it. Of course, after 10 seconds.
This is crazy. So we're in my hometown in Christina. I'm shooting a video and it's just nuts.
How many of you know Rita or okay, maybe like an obvious question, right? But the reason why I wanted to show you that is because she is not English. She comes from where I come from. I'm born in the same city, in Pristina, Kosovo. But that's not the most important thing. The reason why I mentioned that is because even though she got so successful into her career that she's suddenly stepping back for a second saying, oh, by the way, I belong to something somewhere and I feel like I'm kind of lost, right? So I want to get back and to show the world where is the rest of my friends, family, and everybody else, right? So why this is so important is because as humans, remember we talked about Maslow hierarchy of need, right? We need to belong somewhere. And sometimes it happens that we kind of lose the touch of what's happening with the world around us. And then we say, okay, well, let's stop for a second and see where do we need to belong to? Where are the people behind us, right? And so when you look at that, of course, you kind of get an understanding about some of these keywords when it comes to social. Friendship, experience, keeping in touch, engaging, building relationships, identifying elements that can help you grow individually and as a company, and of course sharing, playing, and all of that. So this is part of social kind of platform whereby all of these keywords enable us to do what? To get back sometimes to our roots and say, okay, well, let's just see how I'm connected with the world outside this super popular world of industry of music. Now, when it comes to social, you need to understand these four processes. These are divided into themes. There are different themes, which means different approaches that companies take whenever they want to go on social. Right? And which means they've got different aims and objectives. Right? Sometimes you have companies who want to do that because of marketing and sales. Right? They want to sell and they want to sell more. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. However, what we did say about selling online and social media, we said about what? Building the relationship first, but not having a main aim to sell and then introducing things. This way you will not annoy people, but you'll say, you care about me, I care about you. Well, let's see how we can work together. I'll sell you something, you benefit from it, I win, you win. And we have a relationship going now, so why don't we bring that to another level? The second one is customer service. Lots of companies are not interested in sales, and you can see that, but all they want is to what? To have a really decent customer service in their company. And you can see that some of those companies, if you tweet online or publish something on Facebook, they will get back to you because they are quite interested to find anything they can to engage with customers and also provide support. Third process is around research, IT, and HR. Some companies or some institutions or universities might be interested to do just that, to do just research. They want to identify what happens in social media, what are some of those trends out there, and how that is affecting the business world. Of course, some of those things can be related to IT and HR. We have talked so many times about companies now recruiting using social media, and that's happening more and more. So there's lots of HR opportunities there. The other one is, of course, now we're seeing what? We're seeing executives in the company to what? Get social. Now lots of executives in the companies now have what? They have a Twitter profile, they have, of course, most of them do have a LinkedIn profile, but actually quite active on social media. Why is that? Because it sends a strong signal to the customer saying, look, we believe on this and we're here to listen to you. And so if it starts from the top to the bottom, then obviously that is also an interesting trend to follow. Because sometimes in companies it starts from the bottom where you have, I don't know, sales managers or sales representatives who start using social because they want to help customers. And all of that is related to what? Building awareness and loyalty. Building a brand awareness. Letting people know that you exist. Letting people know that you care about what you're doing. And in many cases, letting people know that you're passionate about it if you are. If you're not, it does come across straight away. So, how do you do that? What are the approaches you can take to find your customers and identify their behaviors and the things that they do? There are all sorts of ways, but these are some of the most popular approaches one can take to identify customers, where they spend time mostly with their friends, and what do they do. Short surveys, this is typical in the websites. Companies invest so much to what? To introduce a large surveys and questionnaires where they ask you to answer some questions. And you go, you answer some questions, and they get a view about you in particular as a customer. Another way is to use Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a website, an application online that allows you to measure and manage your online presence and social activities as well. So, what you can do there, you can identify where people are coming from, which are the sources that drive those traffic in your site. Now, if you go back to my Google Analytics, you will see that lots of traffic comes from Scandinavia. So I know there are lots of students coming from Scandinavia. There are lots of traffic coming from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And I know that most of the traffic that comes from LinkedIn are business professionals. I'm starting to create a bigger picture about who are these people that I'm engaging with and what do they do. So I'm starting to get a better idea about that. The next thing, of course, you can find friends using customer mailing lists. Now, of course, as soon as you have that customer mailing list, you can email customers and start to get an understanding about where do they spend most of their time and which are those social channels. So then you can go and engage with them there. Google Alerts. Now, Google Alerts are a very nice and neat little tool introduced by Google some time ago that enables us to what? To ask Google to do us a favor. To pick up on keywords around interest that we have every time something is published. So we can say, I want you, Google, to tell me every time somebody talks about fashion in Twitter. So you do Twitter, fashion, UK. And Google algorithms and Google servers will search everywhere they can, and they will send you via email all those top news. So this way you've been updated with what's happening around your area, around your expertise, or around your business. Another way is, of course, using Technorati, which is the #1 blogging directory in the world today, whereby you can see what do people talk about when they go in the blogosphere, which are those bloggers that talk about different issues. It could be issues about your brand, your company, about your customers. The other tool that is quite popular is Social Mentions. It's a free tool. We'll talk about tools when we get there. It's probably week 6 or 7, we'll see now, but we're going to talk about it. Social Mentions give you an idea about how much people talk about you online. And it tells you how positive those discussions are and also how negative they are. So in other words, it gives you a bit of direction where to focus and where to engage with your customers. So you can pick up on people that are talking about you. And of course, last but not less important, Twitter hashtags, replies and mentions. So this way you are understanding clearly, quickly, who are those people that are engaging with you. And you're building up a slightly better picture. Now, as we go by the end of the lecture, you should have a better idea about how you can approach this. Once you know where your customers are spending time, where your target audience is spending time, you will start to move in some of these channels. So this is a bit more strategic, rather than saying we need to be on Twitter, because everybody's there. We need to be on Facebook, because everybody's there. We need to be on Facebook, because on LinkedIn, because it's a business professional social networking site. LinkedIn, Google+, everywhere else. Now, the big question you might ask, where can you find resources for this? Where can you find people who are going to do all of this for you? Not even big companies sometimes can't afford this, let alone small ones. And that's why, following this process, it is a lot easier to have a bit of control over what you're doing online. But have a bit more plan around it. And as you go, you develop it. And that becomes your social strategic plan. It can be a short one, it can be 2 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, it can be 6 months to a year. It's up to you. But at least you have a plan, you have boundaries that you're going to go through. And of course, after you've got a good understanding about customers, you'll pick up on the social channels that you'll use. You might say, actually, there's no point for me being on LinkedIn. I can't find relevant customers in there, and actually they don't engage much with me anyway, so forget about this. But the research is giving me a very strong signal that Twitter is an important one. In addition to that, lots of people share images of my products on Pinterest. So, I think we should be heading that way as well. So in other words, you do a bit of homework by following some of those approaches and identify those channels that you should be focusing on. Next, now that you've identified these channels, and you said, I'm going to experiment with some of these channels, how do you go about doing it? We talked about this last week a little bit as well, so we're not going to get into details. But just quickly, the first thing you're going to do, you're going to start publishing. Second thing, you're going to start tracking what is taking people's attention. What is working the best? What type of content is working the best? Now, you might be the business owner and say, I know what works for my business, why are you telling me that? Well, actually, you might think you know, but what customers want is maybe totally different. So tracking those conversations becomes essential to pick up on the topic and the content that works best. Third process, of course, is engaging. Now that you identify what's working, you need to go out and engage and talk to these people. The next, and of course, contribute to these discussions, help out as much as you can. And then the last phase, of course, is do a bit of overall assessment and see where you are with that experimentation, with that test that you're doing for that particular social networking channel. And then that's when you can bring some of these channels forward. You're going to say, I'm actually going to stick with Facebook, Twitter, and I'm going to leave out Pinterest because even though I publish lots of content in there, most of the users don't engage at all. So let's just not go there because we're just going to be wasting our time and we don't have resources and people to do that. Now, once you've done that, of course, you need to make it easy for people to share. Now, this is a plugin for the websites and for the blogs that everybody can use to enable people to share the content you have. Most of the platforms and the website enable this automatically, but some of them that don't need to make sure, you need to be aware that this is an essential part because you need to make it what? Easy for people to share. Sometimes you might lose on people that might share with thousands of their friends online simply because you don't have a share button or something like that. Some users will go extra miles to share a link, copy that and paste it in an email and share with their friends, but not all of them are like that. So it's important to make it super easy to do that. Now, the challenge with online business in general is the fact that we seem to be open 24/7, right? Now, with that come lots of hard work and lots of difficulties in dealing with customers and dealing with people who might be interested in what we do, right? Simply because, how can you have somebody 24/7 looking after business? So, talking about this, we need to have what? We need to have a staffing plan. We need to have those resources that you know are going to be helping you out to succeed online and social. You are going to need people to execute your plan. That's right, people, not personal, people. You need to have these groups of people who you are explaining to them what is that you're trying to do with your social media plan, and then start to kind of help them out, get prepared for the next phase, which is giving them a bit of training. Now that you've identified people that want to engage online, you're going to train them. You're going to help them out. The reason why sometimes people ignore some of these powerful social channels are because they find it too difficult and nobody spends a single minute with them trying to explain how they work. So, write a social networking policy. Now, this is very important. Now that you've got people on board, you need to tell them what they can and cannot share online. How do they deal with customer reviews? How do they deal with bad comments? What do they do about it? Do they have to go back and just keep arguing with all the customers? And by the end of the year, you'll have the most ruined brand online ever? How are you going to deal with that? So you've got to make sure that, of course, that becomes a part of that strategic social media plan for engaging online. Remember, employees should be social networking advocates. Really important. The next thing is that you will need, of course, to be thinking about optimizing brand engagement and branded employees. Now, there are lots of companies who are enabling people to use their own personal handles on Twitter for their business. Some of them are saying, no, we're going to give you the business account for Twitter that you should use. So one day, when you decide to leave the company, the Twitter handle stays with us, not with you. In fact, I had a friend of mine who runs a business in the US. She posted on Facebook exactly about this question. She was saying, I don't know what to do. Should I go and change some of my social media policy for the employees? Because I have an employee who is using his own personal Twitter account, and of course, he will be leaving soon. What do we do about it? He's got a huge amount of followers that go after him. Does that mean you're going to lose on the way? That's possible, right? So it's something for the companies to be thinking about. It needs to be part of the strategy. Now, normally some of the best practices do suggest that you have branded profiles on social media. But the problem is this. The challenge is this one. That how many social channels you can look after, realistically speaking. Right? And we have one for each channel, and it becomes very hard. Imagine if you have 2 or 3 or 4, then how can you do that? So that becomes a challenge, but it's something to think about. Let's see how Dell does. Dell does e.g. at name of the company Chris Dell. Zappos does at Zappos online John. Okay? So this way they kind of build up a more branded social presence, which I think is a good idea. Now that you have trained people, you're letting them engage online, you've got a policy how to engage social media, you need to define measurable goals and what you want to get out of it. You remember, last week we talked about identify clear aims and objectives that you want to get out of social. This now, at this point, is about designing and having measurable goals. And those goals need to be, as I said here, they need to be specific, They need to exactly show what is that you're trying to get out of social presence. You also need to be able to measure it. Establish different processes that enable you as a business, as a manager, or as a senior director to measure those performances and how much you're reaching out into people. Action-oriented. So it needs to get people to do something. It needs to get people to take an action and to move things to another level. These goals need to be realistic. We said earlier, you don't want to be shooting yourself in the foot. You've got to have realistic goals. As a business, as a brand, or as a personal user online. It's really important. Because you can have all those fancy, great numbers on your strategic plan, but in reality, you're not going to get near them in the next 4 or 5 years, even if you're super active. And of course, those goals need to have a bit of time plan, milestone, where you want these goals to be completed by. And if if this process becomes part of the strategic plan for the social media, it's quite hard to lose control over what we're planning to do. Now, content development. How do we develop content? How do we make sure that we have enough content to publish, that we have enough content to publish so then others would engage with us? Of course, this is an important part, but the number one thing you need to be thinking about, of course, is what is the theme of the content? What is this trying to do? Remember, we're going back to the theme. Is it about sales? Is it about marketing? Is it about HR? Is it about IT? Research and development, what it is for. Identify the theme. Second, who is that individual? Who are those people in the company that will start to create that piece of content? Third, when and where that will be shared. Remember, different types of updates are relevant for different types of people in different times of the day. If you publish your really interesting tweets super early morning, I might not even catch up with them. Right? Or if you publish something after 2 at night, you're missing out because I'm probably not going to read them. So you need to know what, where, and how you're going to publish those things. Of course, how often, that's an important thing. How often you will share content with third parties. Now, not all the time you have to push the content out yourself. You can get other people to help you out do that. You can get bloggers, companies, and other interesting affiliate marketing programs to do that for you. How will you deliver content? Are you going to do that using tweets, videos, Pinterest photographs? How are you going to do that? Instagram? What is going to be the way of you distributing that content? Remember, it goes back to the social channels we decide to go for and then we experiment with them. Keep calm and educate and entertain. Now, the things that you're trying to implement in social need to be around what educating people. And when I say educating, I mean giving them tips and tricks and ideas and plans and processes they can follow to get better at what they do. Help people with their lives. And when you do that, they'll come to you. And then they will want to engage with the brand because you care about them. You're educating them, you're supporting them. And now they want to come and talk to you in the future. Okay. Content, you need to have a sort of plan and calendar for the content. You need to know when. Remember, some of you asked about what did that time plan meant for publishing content. It's this, and we'll look at an example soon, but you've also seen in the YouTube video I created for you. No content marketing strategy, no social networking strategy. You need, now even marketing in general won't go anywhere. Even overall marketing company won't go anywhere if it doesn't have content in there. So, all having very expensive types of social kind of profiles without having content won't get any company anywhere. Social should be around, some type of content calendar, your message and your social marketing plan needs to be there. Now, let's look at some examples. This is this is a way of planning your social media engagement on a weekly basis. Of course, if you look at the columns, you will have days of the week. You go in the rows, you'll identify which channels are we using. Remember, we're going back to the channels we have identified to be most important for our business. Then what we're doing is saying, okay, these are the places, social channels we will be publishing. These are types of content. This is the type of content we will publish, and also we'll show you who is responsible for that. And these things can be reorganized, redone the way you want, but some sort of publishing plan need to be there. Newspaper magazines have an editorial plan, which is similar to this, really. And in fact, that's probably could be modified to be used for social, because it's also an editorial monitoring process where you want to know who wants to say what. Now, of course, with social, it's not about controlling everything, but just keeping an eye on what goes out there. Next, identify what are the things that you're really good at, what are your weaknesses, strengths, opportunities, and threats. Now, SWOT analysis does really help in this case. So, you'll identify what are those skills that you have in the company, in the workplace. What are those weaknesses that people have? Maybe some of them don't want to write, some of them don't want to publish, some of them just hate social. Of course, what are opportunities that social bring to the business if you were to publish the right content that is relevant for the customers? And of course, what are the threats for other businesses, from your competitors? And of course, if we leave things aside and say, okay, well, social seems to be too difficult, too hard to deal with, just leave it. And then very soon you'll have competitors coming your way and engaging with your customers. And maybe in a very short period of time, you'll see the number of customers you have dropping down. Next, now how do you build this social business? What are some of the steps you need to follow? The first important thing is, of course, we talked about this, identifying customers. Second, engaging with them. You need to engage with the customers. Third, you'll contribute. You need to contribute and support different sessions. Four, you need to measure those engagements. Measure and measure some more. We said tools will allow us to do just that. And then later on in the module, we'll have a specific lesson on the tools and the role of the tools for social presence. Fifth, you need to stick around. You need to show people you're there. You're not there just because you want to talk to someone quickly, get an idea, and then leave forever. You are there, you're interested, you want to engage with people. So stick around and do not disappear. So these are some of the processes that can help almost any business become a bit more social, followed by some of the things that we mentioned earlier. Ideas for content and content creation. Lots of companies talk about, of course, when, how they should start to think about selling something online. Selling or promoting something using social media. These are some of the things that businesses could do. They can test their messages. They can look into the messages and see, let's test something and see how that works. Target messages more towards the groups of people we said we're engaging in different social channels. Who are the groups of people we're engaging here, there, and tailor those messages. Prove your worth. Now, how do you prove your worth? Because you've been so active and you are publishing lots of relevant content. And therefore, educating people. Educating customers. And educating friends. And then, of course, as soon as you've done that, you engage with your customers, and then you can ask for an order. You can ask for people to purchase one of your products. And that's absolutely fine. People won't be annoyed with that. But as soon as there is that process of thinking about, okay, well, we're social, we shouldn't be offering any of these things, well, that's not necessarily the right strategy to go for. So, what are some of the things to be thinking about? Of course, this can be interesting for your assignment as well, but also for overall research. Research your customers. Identify goals that you have with a social media strategy. Pick up channels. Experiment with channels and see what works, what doesn't. Make sure there are resources available to support social activities. Really important. You might have the best brilliant ideas. If you don't have people behind you, nothing is going to get anywhere. The other one, educate and educate some more. So the content you provide needs to be able to help people improve their lives, their work environment. And of course, last but not least, converting. You see, there is a specific process that one needs to follow. And in the way, build a relationship. And then, obviously, convert those engagements into sales.